Well, I was standing by a lake, a small country lake. It was a little longer than it was wide, and it had inlets that went here and there. And it was a late June afternoon. And the sun was like glistening on the lake, and it was so peaceful and quiet. And then I saw this small gray aluminum boat pulled up on the grass with the oars inside. Now, this was a fish and wildlife reserve. So I thought, well, maybe they just leave it there for people to use. I looked around. I was the only person there. I looked out. There was nobody on the lake. And that boat was calling to me. That water was calling to me. See, I grew up rowing boats in these small country lakes, and the feel of that water was just like silk on your skin. So, I love to go back home for visits, and I was back home for a visit, and it was in farm country just west of Terre Haute, Indiana. And I had left my three little boys with some relatives for a while I took a ride by myself out around the country. And I thought, those boys are going to be fine if I take that boat out for a row. So I pushed it into the water, and the water was not too deep, and then about 3 feet, and then I climbed in, and then I just fell into the familiar rhythm of rowing. It was like plunk, shh, plunk, shh, plunk, shh. I loved it. I rowed out to the middle of the lake, and then I pulled the oars into the boat, and I just laid back, and I looked up at the blue sky and the white clouds, and I felt the warmth of the sun. It was just delightful. And then I saw something moving at the end of one of those little inlets, and it was white. And I thought, is that a duck? I rowed a little closer, and then I saw that there were two, and they were swans. My God. They were wild swans. It was rare to see wild swans in Indiana. I was so excited. So I just rowed a little closer just to see more clearly. And they were really busy. They were swimming kind of all around, and they were dipping their beaks in and out of the water. And I thought, what are they doing? So I got a little closer, and I saw baby swans. Cygnets. I mean, there were like 5, 6, 7 of them. And they were so cute. They were just like that story of the ugly duckling, these little furry gray looking ducks. And they were just swimming all around in the water. And I just felt like I just wanted to pick one up and put it in my Easter basket. And then one of the swans, like the biggest one, raised his head and looked at me. I thought, well, that must be the whale. He looked at me, and it was like a warning. And I went, oh, okay, all right, a little too close. I'm sorry. And I began to row backward, but not fast enough. He hissed and pulled himself out of the water. And I thought, oh my God, he looks angry. I mean, he looks really angry. And I said, okay, I'm going to row faster. I row faster, and I'll get myself away from him, and then he'll calm down. He'll calm down. So I started to row faster and row faster. And then he actually lifted himself up out of the water, raised his wings sort of at half extension. And then I could see the bulk and the strength of his body, and just like, God, that's a big bird. And I row faster, just row faster, row. And then he opened his wings. He opened them full wide. They were 7 to 8 feet wide. And then he started to flap them. And then it was like he was walking on water. I could see his short, stout, black legs connected to these big, wide, webbed black feet that he was just slapping on the water, slapping on the water as he was just heading straight toward me. I was rowing now as fast as I can. I was gripped onto the oars. My arms were shaking. My back, my legs were tensed. I couldn't row any faster. I was sweating. I was sweating so hard. I can't go faster. I can't go faster. And that I realized at that moment that this was a perilous situation. With one of those flaps of those wings, he could knock me out of that boat. He could beat me in the water. And if he didn't kill me, I would just get sucked under from the weeds and the moss in that water. I looked at him and I could just see the look in his eye was fierce. And I thought, I can't outrun him. I mean, he's faster. He's way faster than I am. And then I just glanced down. I gazed down. And then I said, as softly and as quietly and calmly as I could say, I'm not going to hurt your babies. I'm not going to hurt your babies. I have babies too. I have babies too, just like you. I'm not going to hurt your babies. I have babies too, just like you. And I just kept saying that over and over and never stopping rowing. And then he stopped the attack. And it was as if somehow I had communicated. But he did not leave his spot in the middle of that lake until I was out of the boat, had pulled the boat back up onto the grass, and had gotten in my car. I could have died. I mean, that could have been fatal. And it was my own fault. It was all my own fault. Could be dead, but I didn't mean to be discourteous. I didn't mean to do anything wrong, but I did. I did. It was my fault. I was just not thinking. Absolutely, blissfully not thinking. Now when I see a swan, I still see the elegance and the gracefulness of those bodies. But I have a new understanding of the sovereignty of nature and our need to respect it. That's my story.